Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome back to our career series. Today, we have three exciting guests with us, and we're very, very, very happy to have them. Today, we're tackling information and technology and sciences. So please stay tuned to hear about these wonderful individuals. My name is Hawa Abbas, and I am one of the MSA National Board members based out of Michigan. So MSA National was established in January of 1963. It's the MSA of the US and Canada that serves Muslim students during their college and university careers by facilitating their efforts to establish, maintain, and develop local MSA chapters. Our vision is that all Muslim students have a safe space in which to build a closer relationship with God and their community. And our mission is to serve Muslim students, alumni, and facilitate their efforts to establish, develop, and maintain professionally supported chapters of the MSA. Emphasis on the spiritual, religious, social, civic growth of the well-being of students. And this series right here is one of the many things that we do here at MSA National. And the purpose of this is to introduce students to different career paths to consider and allowing students to ask successful Muslims in these particular fields about what they do, how they do it, and what do they love so much about what they do. So stay tuned as we dive into this with our three speakers. So let's introduce our three speakers. Today we have three wonderful speakers. First off, we have Vanessa Landis, who is on-site scientist in General Electric. She supports research collaborations between GE and the Gordon Center for Medical Imaging. Next, we have Fatima Ibrahim, who is a software engineer at Microsoft. And we have Mustafa, who is a senior director in ITF, Rare Candy Company. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for joining us. So we're going to have a couple questions for you guys, and we're going to do it from Vanessa, Fatima, to Mustafa. So we're going to ask you guys each of those questions, and you'll answer it in that order. So if we can pull up the first question. So how did you guys get into this field? And we'll go ahead and start with Vanessa.
Sure. So let's see. I started off very interested in music, I'll be honest. And I played the flute and I wanted to be a musician. And my mom encouraged me to double major. So I also ended up doing a degree in biomedical engineering at the University of Rhode Island. So I'm a Rhode Island native. And from there, I was kind of lost on where to go. So I went to as many like career panels and maybe some of you listening in are doing today. And I went to career fairs and I talked to advisors at my university trying to figure out where to go from there. And they encouraged me to, or like the most exciting option, I kind of applied to many places, but the most exciting option was to do PhD studies at the University of Southern California in medical imaging. So I did my PhD in MRI physics, and that was wonderful, mainly because I met the Muslim community there, and I became Muslim, and that it was great to have that alongside my studies. I guess my studies were exciting, but there was also wonderful other things happening in my life at the time. And after the PhD, I did kind of a similar thing. I didn't know what to do, and I applied to a lot of jobs that I might be qualified for, and the one that fit was this on-site scientist position. And it's really fun. My bosses are two of my bosses are moms, so I really like having that guidance. I'm actually expecting in mid-August, so it's been amazing having these mentors on this path right now, and right now I've been learning so much about general medical imaging and what type of research my center is working on. There's maybe like 100 different scientists there, all developing new technologies in PET, in MR, in CT, and yeah, I guess it's just I can't say that I got into any step along the way by like knowing what I was going to do beforehand. It was more just seeing what options were available and trying to see what doors are opened, and taking whatever opportunity I could.
So much, Vanessa, for sharing, and congratulations on expecting, inshallah. So the next question goes to Fatima. Also, how did you get into this field?
That's a wonderful question. I would say when I was in high school, I had a couple of like hardware engineering classes available, and my dad was like, you know what, the worst thing that could do is you take it, you realize you don't like it, and you just don't pursue it, and that's totally fine. So I kind of used that as a guiding principle. I took a couple of classes. I knew I enjoyed like the challenge that came with trying to solve, these complex problems. But I knew that hardware engineering maybe wasn't exactly where I wanted to be. So when I graduated and I went on to college, I was debating between going into something with law or something with tech, but I just, again, wasn't so sure. I hadn't taken any coding classes or anything like that. And so again, when I was in college, I was like, you know what, I didn't really like hardware engineering. Maybe software engineering might be something that I'm interested in. And so I decided to take, the first class. It was difficult. It was definitely not like a walk in the park. But I think something that kind of kept me there was that it was challenging, and I was very uncomfortable with a lot of these problems that I was seeing. And that was something that I felt I wasn't getting in a lot of my other classes. And so I was like, you know what, maybe this might be a sign that this might be something that I'd be interested in pursuing. And so I remember I, continued to take my classes. That's when I kind of decided, you know what, maybe I'll go with this CS degree instead of something, or computer science degree instead of something with pre-law. And I kind of just went with it, and I was like, okay, I think this should be fine. And I remember I was reading like online, if you do these tech classes, go into a tech career, it should be relatively easy to land a job. It was not easy at all. And so I think that posed another set of challenges, kind of like what Sister Vanessa was saying about how, I think a lot of it comes with, just trial and error and learning what works, what doesn't work, and also trying to understand the field a lot more. And so this was stuff that I wasn't necessarily learning inside of the classroom per se, but it was a lot of, networking, going on LinkedIn, trying to understand the field and see how it's played a little bit, like how do these interviews work? What kind of work does the day-to-day life look like? And that consisted a lot of just, emailing people on LinkedIn saying, hi, I'd like to set up a coffee chat just to see what your day-to-day looks like, just so that I knew what I was going into. And so it was a lot of, studying for interviews, interview preps, networking, and alhamdulillah, I was able to land my first tech job. And I think it kind of helped me understand how to sort of navigate that from there. And I think since then, it's been really exciting. I love the challenge. I love that I don't necessarily know how to solve everything at work. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of what's kept me excited and interested in this field.
Thank you, Fatima. And thank you so much for being like honest and transparent about the challenges that comes with picking a career like this. I really appreciate that. So the next question also goes to Mustafa.
Hi, so I went into IT for the fame and the fortune. So interesting enough, I started off in high school doing accounting. I was really into like numbers and logic and problem solving. And so in my high school, we had accounting classes, and I was able to take those. My mom, interesting enough, we grew up with very difficult financial circumstances. And so my mom, there was a local company in our neighborhood, and my mom told me, hey, when I was 16, go apply there for an internship. And so I actually went directly to the company, went to HR and said, hey, is there internships? And I actually landed a accounts payable clerk position when I was 16. And so I ended up working there for 3 years, continued doing accounting classes in high school, and did my first year in college with an accounting focus. Then I was talking to folks at work, and we were talking about how much a CPA was getting paid and how much an IT person was getting paid, and it was actually double. So I literally, I think maybe a 5-minute conversation, switched from being accounting to IT for the sole purpose of making more money, because obviously when you don't have any money, does make, an opportunity for things in your life to be a little bit simpler. Then I went and switched to university, switched majors. And when I looked at universities, I was really focused on what universities actually producing jobs for IT. I really didn't have a strong understanding of what IT truly meant at the time, except that, I know that I love logic, I love numbers, so I thought that would be an easy transition. And so went to a school that was really strong, and I think has the largest IT department in the US. And I didn't really know what I was doing and didn't know what classes to take if I wanted to be a programmer, web developer. So I ended up just exploring and took a lot of different classes to the point where I was able to double major and minor within IT because I had taken such a breadth of classes within my time at school. And that was what enabled me to interview well and get job opportunities, because I worked 3 years in accounting on a software, which ended up being the software I actually work for right now. So it was a miracle of how all the things had transpired over time, where I was able to explore, take on all these classes, and then find out later on that technology I was doing as an accounting clerk was the technology I pretty much most of my career has been based on.
Thank you so much for sharing. And hey, there's nothing wrong with wanting a job that makes money. And clearly you've done well for yourself, alhamdulillah. So moving on to the next question. If you can give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be? Let's start with Vanessa.
My younger self, some piece of advice. I would say it's, of course, it's very important to do your research and read up on what field you're interested in, and of course see where it's going, how likely it is to end up in a job afterwards. I think that's why I did biomedical engineering. It was literally because my school, my university had a pretty good program, and it had a high likelihood of helping to lead to a job afterwards. But I would say further down the road, when you're considering your careers and stuff, and along the way, don't for me, I mean, I spend a lot of time studying. I would say don't forget about the bigger picture. So it's important to keep in mind your intentions while you're choosing a certain degree. If it is to it should always be good intentions. Even if it's just for the money, it can be more than that. It can be I want to have a family and I want to be able to support them, and that's a very noble intention. That's beautiful. But for me, I would say for my younger self, probably just I shouldn't have focused so much on studies. I would have told myself, keep in mind, keep doing service, keep meeting with the community, make time for this, if not every week, every month. And yeah, that's what I'd say.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Fatima, same question for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think something that I definitely wish I would have told myself, and I think oftentimes I'm reminded in my current job as well, is, don't be discouraged and keep going. So for my undergrad, I went to UC Berkeley, and their computer science department, or just their tech area just in general is really, really intense. And I think a lot of times when I was in the classroom, and I often looked like the only person there that, you know, kind of looked like me, resembled me. A lot of times I did feel this bit of imposter syndrome, or felt that maybe, you know, I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, or a lot of these people have like a higher edge than me. And oftentimes, you know, we're all kind of figuring things out on our own. Oftentimes, even if it feels like, you know, everyone else in the room knows exactly what they're doing, chances are they're not. And that's something I wish I would have told myself a lot younger, a long time ago, when I would, you know, maybe doubt myself or feel I didn't have the capabilities to keep going. And I think that's something that really, really drives the way that we view ourselves and the way that we view our abilities to do anything. And I know now things obviously are a lot, not as, you know, black and white as being in a classroom with like 500 plus people. But I think it's also a good reminder to myself sometimes when I feel, you know, like, oop, maybe this task is too big, but it's, you know, at the end of the day, it's, you know, everything. God doesn't give you more than you can bear. You can do it. And so that's something I definitely wish I would have told my younger self.
Thank you. Beautiful advice, Fatima. Really appreciate that. And Mustafa, if you could give yourself.
Yeah, so for me, it's to be end goal oriented. So end game when you're going to school is in hopes that you go from school to finding a job. So first, you know, make sure that you choose the right school that has a high likelihood of you landing a job in the field you're going into. You want to go for that competency. You're learning something at school, right? What's the value of that competency if you can't land a job after? So first would be that. Second, you have to differentiate yourself between you and the next person that's applying for that job. And to do that, interesting enough, it's the teacher that is one that is providing you your grade. It's the internships providing you that experience. It's your want to learn and understand the material that enables you to really speak well about the competency you're focusing on. And so when I would focus on the teacher, I would think, and this still resonates with me today, and I would tell myself this: the teacher is your customer, right? Your teacher has expectations. Your teacher gives you a syllabus. The teacher is going to grade your paper, your assignment, whatever it is. They're going to be either subjective or objective. But end game is your teacher holds really the keys to what your end grade is going to be, and all you can do is put your best effort forward. Now, if you know your teacher is going to give you that grade, and you're struggling, first thing I would recommend doing is go out, reach out to your teacher, connect with them, understand what their needs are. How do you know what their expectations are if you don't connect with them? And so focusing on that will help differentiate you within class, but also give you a true appreciation of understanding, especially with technology. You're there to solve problems. My whole job is solving problems. So, you know, when you're working with your teacher has something that you need to get done. You need to understand what their needs are, and then how to translate that to something that you can turn in and be proud of. And by doing that, if you can work hard and differentiate yourself, you can then get that a better edge when you are interviewing for a job. I have a philosophy that it's important that you're going to have to work hard sometime in your life. There's a period where you're going to really spend a tremendous amount of time really focused on building your competency. You can do it while you're in your undergrad, while you're in your master's or whatever program you're in, or you can kind of, you know, take the ride and then graduate, and then you may not get a good job. Well, then at your job, if you want to move up and you want to have a stable position, you're going to have to work hard there. My question is, what would you prefer to do? Work hard in your school and try to get those straight A's, try to differentiate yourself and land a really awesome job with a company that can really put you on the map? Or do you want to you have fun at school, but then struggle for years and years and years trying to get into a good position, and then finally do it while you're, you know, when you're older and you have a lot more responsibilities, a family, and so forth. So I would tell myself to really focus on school, be end goal oriented, understand your teacher, and try to differentiate yourself to really push forward and make yourself valuable to yourself and to the organization that's hiring you afterwards.
Thank you so much, Mustafa. That's some solid advice, guys, and take notes. He's right. Work hard in school, and hey, it'll make possibly your future career much, much, much easier. All right, so jumping into the next question. What does a day in your life currently look like? And I know it probably is a little different as some of us are working from home, but what does a day in your life look like, Vanessa?
A day in my life. Okay. It's for my job, it's kind of like three different aspects. So the first aspect is managing this portfolio of different research studies that we're collaborating on. So some of them are very much aligned with my background and my expertise. So I'm like directly like programming aspects of the project, or I'm helping to design experiments that will be run. And then in addition to the management, I work on developing a new MRI sequence for doing something called extracellular volume mapping. That basically, it's a test in the heart, and it helps see how well the heart is functioning. And the third aspect is I program and develop like a technology for PET CT scans that helps improve visualization around like metallic implants. So yeah, I guess it's like a little bit of development in PET, a little bit of development in MR, and then as well as managing and making sure the projects have new projects are being developed, and then also like making sure everyone has the right tools they need to move forward. So it's fun. Yeah.
Wow, you sound like you have such a full, busy day. They sound like they definitely keep you busy there.
Yeah.
So the next question, or the same question to Fatima, what does a day in your life look like, and how do you balance that?
Yeah, definitely. A bit kind of like what Sister Vanessa was saying. My job or the day-to-day does consist of different types of responsibilities. So as a software engineer, a couple of things that I work on is number one, features and creating features. The way that I like to explain this is essentially you have product managers that have like a whole set of, hey, we want to build out this feature. So then they give it to the team of software engineers, and the software engineers build it. So for example, if you take Instagram, Instagram stories was probably a feature that a product manager had all written up, like, this is how we want it to be. We want to have users able to like, add an image or a video to their story where they can see how many people view their stories. And then you can click through. So something like that would be given to the team of engineers, and they code it up and go through tests to make sure that it's working, nothing breaks. And then it goes through all the different pipelines up until it gets into production and open to the public. So that's one part, creating features. The second part that I work on is working and fixing different bugs that may exist with our current features. So because we have real life customers that use our things, sometimes they might open up kind of like a ticket saying, oh, I had this weird experience over here. This is impacting my user experience with your product. And so I would kind of jump on and try to fix and figure out what's going on. And then another part of that is working with other people on my team in terms of like mentoring and helping and onboarding them to our team and what we do. So it's a little bit of, everything. It keeps things a little exciting. So not every day looks the same. And yeah, gratefully, working remotely has helped with balancing that a little bit better, because, you can kind of take some, mental break away from the screen, do what you need to do, come back and be refreshed to, take on the next task. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Fatima, for sharing. Again, you too, sounds like you have a very busy day and they keep you on your toes. So same question to Mustafa. What does a day in your life look like?
So my focus within my organization is truly problem solving. So I understand and work with the leadership team of the organization, and we have challenges within the organization that need to be solved with people, process, and technology. So my job is I get brought into different meetings where I am able to help strategize is in web development, regular development, business intelligence, and integration, and so forth, and enterprise architecture. So I have a very diverse background, and that allows me to manage a team that is specialized in each of those areas. And it's a solid team, so I don't have to spend so much time managing them because they're rock solid. So I spend a lot of my time solving problems. And so an organization may, whatever is like the blaring issue of the week or the month or the year, I'll work and collaborate with those team members to really understand their issues and then architect a solution to solve that. And that's one portion. Second is I'm part of in what we call employee resource group to really unite the company. This is not IT related, to make the environment a better environment at the office, and so that's working with the diversity, equity, and inclusion team. So I get to get involved in some of the soft areas and not so technical, and it's something that I enjoy. So in IT, it's great if you're able to really know the nuts and bolts of how to get things done, but also how to communicate with people, listen to them. Transitions exactly like I talked about before. You want to understand your teacher and be able to translate that to doing the right paper or turning in the right assignment to the expectations of your teacher. That's the exact same way here. So if the head of sales is having a challenge and I need to figure out a solution to provide head of sales so that they can, overcome their challenge. It could be the head of operations. It could be the head of HR. I mean, there really isn't a limitation because the structure is the same. You got to listen to them. You got to understand their challenges. You got to understand all the people that are participating in solving that problem or executing on that issue that's happening, and then figure out what are the gaps, what are the issues that are happening, and you want to kind of reverse engineer it, and then you want to re-engineer it so that it's going to work the right way and be more efficient. We have a acronym, the KISS acronym. We shifted it because I work for a candy company. So it used to be called Keep It Stupid Simple, but we changed it stupid to sweet. So keep it sweet simple. And sweet is value to the people that we're solving the problem for, and keeping it simple. No reason to work hard. IT is meant to automate, to simplify, right? And if we can make things more efficient and more effective, you're going to make people's lives better. And then if you make their lives better and they're able to really not focus on entering in numbers constantly, and they're focusing on analyzing how to change the business and the organization to make it a better place for the organization to thrive, then that's a success for both IT folks as well as the organization.
Thank you, Mustafa, for sharing. We really appreciate that, and you highlighting exactly what it is that you do. And you too, busy day. Mashallah, very hardworking individuals with us today. So we're actually going to get questions from the audience. And the first question that we received is, and anyone can answer this, do you have to learn a coding language to get a job in IT? And I probably am going to pick on Mustafa because...
All right, I can start off with this. So with IT, it's a very wide spectrum, right? And so there are folks that are managing the hardware, and they don't do coding typically. There may be some coding, but most likely if they're doing networking and so forth, it's not like developing programs and so forth. Then there's actually developers that are developing on applications and creating applications. And then there's people that are communicating between the customer, the person who has an issue, and the technical folks, right? And so they're getting the requirements, but they don't have to develop. And then you have the actual people on that are using the technology that we call just the end users. And so in the spectrum, It's of course very important to take coding classes, because how do you translate the problem to someone who's going to develop if you don't really understand the language they talk? Doesn't mean you have to do it day in, day out, but it's great to get exposure. And then, but if you're not going to do necessarily, let's say, programming, you should really like be someone that can understand the requirements from an end user and be able to translate it so that somebody can code it on your behalf. That's, I think, from what I've experienced, a good place for someone who doesn't necessarily feel that coding is for them.
Thank you. Thank you so much for answering that. Very well said. So we have another question here. And again, anyone can answer this. I'm a recent grad and want to transition into a career in tech. What would you advise? They didn't specify if they were already, studying tech, but they would like to transition into this career.
I could take this one. So kind of piggybacking off of what Mustafa said, and it's very true. The term IT or tech is very, very broad. And even within that, there's a lot of different roles within tech that require a lot of different skill sets. So for example, you can, maybe do some sort of product management, which doesn't require much, coding on the day-to-day. You could maybe be like a designer, UI UX designer. Maybe you're interested in software engineering. There's a lot of different roles that you can go into within tech. And I think one of the most important things that you should do before even trying to get into it is figuring out exactly what it is that you like to do. And figuring out what it is that you like to do is very different than what you just like to do, or what you think you like to do, because oftentimes maybe you like the job title, but the day-to-day role and what you actually do on the job might be a little bit different than what you maybe assume that you're doing. So because there's a lot of different tracks you can take into tech, I would say the first thing that you should do is try to figure out what your passions are and try to find a role that fits within that. I know a lot of people that are UI UX designers, and a lot of their day-to-day roles have to do with more so the design aspect of things, right? So coming up with mock-ups, talking to the customer, figuring out what the user experience should be. And from that, maybe they might send it off to the software engineers, or they might be working with the product managers. And those are all different roles within tech, but they don't necessarily require the same skill sets. If you take product managers, for example, they don't do a lot of coding on the day-to-day, but they are kind of like the quote unquote middleman between a lot of different roles. So maybe the product managers might be working with the software engineers, might be working with the UI UX designers, might also be working with the product managers, the business team, a lot of different aspects, and you get a very cross-functional role. Software engineers, for example, maybe their role might be a lot more technical or coding on the day-to-day. So I would say the first thing is to see where your passions lie, what your skill sets are, what you might want to exercise a little bit more, and then get into that. And again, you didn't have to have studied that in school necessarily. These are things that you might be able to learn online. There are a lot of really cool free resources that you could use. Networking, talking to people who have the job, see what they've done to get into the role. And I think that definitely helps you with sort of getting into landing a role in tech. Yeah.
Thank you, Fatima, for answering that. Appreciate that. So we have another question here, and anyone again can answer this, but what's the most difficult part of your job in tech? Mustafa, if you'd like to answer this, we would love to hear your response.
I think really the most important thing to do, as we talked about, is have a competency in your area of expertise. So what happens is if you know best practices of how to navigate through a difficult situation, then you're able to solve that problem. So what is the most difficult? It's really when something's gone wrong and there's a very short time to really resolve that issue. And then what do you lean on? You lean on your skills that you've obtained either through school or through experience to help you follow through the methodologies to solve that problem. But yeah, it could get really intense, right? Because I work for a candy manufacturer, right? So if we can't ship out those nerds, or you're having a challenge with those sweet tarts going out to the store, everybody needs to focus, and we create what we call a war room, and it's a high stress situation, but you fall back on your experience of do step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you'll navigate out of it. And so that is the most critical, factor of what's my most difficult challenge, but how do I get out of it and deal with it with very low stress at the end of the day, is by leaning on my experience of steps through best practices to get out of it.
Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you. Did anyone else want to add to that? Or I think you pretty much covered that. But I guess just in opposite to that, what would you say is the most rewarding part of your job in tech? Or what's your most rewarding part of your job? And I actually want to start off with Vanessa.
Sure. So the most rewarding part of my job is that I actually get an opportunity to keep learning new things. So I really like working with a research lab. It never gets boring.
That's great. So Fatima, what is the most rewarding part of your job?
That's a good question. I think something that is really exciting with the work that I do is that in some way I kind of help, or people use the product to help with some sort of process that they're going through. And a lot of times it's really hard to kind of, step back and look at the bigger picture of what it is that you're working on, not just in the actual company, but what effect that has on a larger scale. And I know, for example, on my team or on my org, I work in mobile device management, which is basically, policies that you have on your computers, say, in different companies or different schools. When we went remote about a year ago into the pandemic, and a lot of schools had to, find ways of, number one, getting computers to all of their students so that they can do their work from home. My organization, we worked with facilitating that process, in that the schools can, provide computers to the students with the correct, configurations, policies needed for them to learn. And it's interesting to see that, because on a day-to-day, I might not necessarily see that impact, but it's kind of cool to see, taking a step back and seeing what that work, the impact that the work we're doing is. I think that definitely gives a little bit of, relief to know that I'm working towards something. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Fatima. And Mustafa, what is the most rewarding part of your job?
Yeah, for me, it's really solving problems and really seeing the change within people within the organization. So, as you can imagine, if you're running through a difficult issue, or you're spending tons of time like doing a process that is straight annoying, right? Like you're spending a tremendous amount of time on a file, or like you're trying to crunch numbers, and it's just taking so much of your time that you can't really provide visibility or provide like value add to the organization. And then coming in and being able to, let's say, simplify it, automate it, whatever we can do, and like I said, with the people, process, and technology, and make them enable them so that they're not focused on like the busy work, but they're really enabled to provide value. Then what happens, and I've seen this because I've been at my company for 8 years now, you see people grow from being an analyst, being a manager, getting director position, getting to become a VP. And it's really truly an enabler of what we do. What my team does is to give them that ease and success, to show them like, they have a goal, but they don't know how to get to their goal. And then being able to say, here is the, charting the course. Everybody, let's go on one ship, go one direction, and collaborate together, and then see their success. And so, alhamdulillah, being able to bring folks from the community into the organization and seeing them grow internally within the company. Same thing, just finding opportunities to land somebody in HR and help them navigate, land them in IT, land them in finance, wherever we can do to see people within our community, whether it's within the organization, solving problems by matching either people to the opportunity, and allowing them and freeing them of their challenges so that they can be successful.
Thank you, Mustafa, for sharing that. And just to pick on you some more, So you work for probably one of my favorite candy companies. And I just want to know, is there any talks of any halal candies coming from Ferrero anytime soon?
Yes, subhanAllah. Well, we do Ferrero Rochers, right? Nutella too. So, and a lot of chocolate cookies, Keebler cookies, Girl Scout cookies. So the portfolio is huge in what we produce. So, yes, some of the products may have pork gelatin, but there is a lot of alternative products that are halal. Too funny.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry to put you on the spot. I just had to ask.
Of course.
And as we're wrapping up here, I just want to again thank all of our guests for speaking today, and want to give you guys an opportunity to give any final remarks or any final words of advice before we end here today. We can start off with Sister Vanessa.
Final advice. I guess if you're uncertain about whether to go for something and it's something that you want, just try. You really never know when you're going to apply for a program or later when you go to apply for jobs, what the employer is exactly looking for, like how you may be an asset, and yeah, just try and don't give up.
Thank you, Vanessa. And for you, Fatima, any final remarks and advice?
Yeah, I really like what Sister Vanessa said. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, honestly. I think the biggest inhibitors that we have are ourselves, and you often never know what opportunities you have, out there for you until you put yourself out there. And I think a lot of times we tend to maybe put ourselves in boxes, or like to compare ourselves to other people, where we might say, oh well, I'm a little too late into my career to make a switch, or oh, but I see so and so is maybe at a different place than I am, and I just don't think I'll be able to go there. And I think the best thing that we can do for ourselves is to really trust in ourselves. Of course, put faith in Allah to help us in these situations, but to honestly go for it. And you'll be really surprised with yourself as well, to see what you're capable of when you really want something, and you'll go out and you'll get it. And I think it's really exciting. And I would definitely say anyone who's considering a career in tech to definitely go for it. See if it's something that you like. Don't be afraid. Put yourself out there. Reach out to people on LinkedIn. And I don't know, the worst you'll get is maybe like a no or no reply, but at least you put yourself out there and you saw what was there. So yeah, that's probably would be my biggest advice.
Thank you. Very beautifully said. And for you, Mustafa, what's your final remarks and advice for the audience today?
Yeah, I would say do not reinvent the wheel. There's best practices of how to be successful to go to school and land a job. Find a mentor. Find somebody that is doing what you are wanting to do, and latch on to that person. That mentor will be excited to help you navigate, but also be someone that's vested in your success. So that mentor's success is making you successful. And so that mentor is going to help you navigate going through school, interviewing, even potentially finding you an internship or a job. And like our esteemed speakers here said, put yourself out there. If you don't get a mentor, then that's just a lost networking opportunity that you had, and you never know where that mentorship will land you. And it's very common that mentors and mentees, when they connect, have a lifelong relationship that really blossoms from a career perspective, but actually getting to know one another. And I think it's essential, especially in your career, no need to reinvent the wheel. Somebody else has done it. They know the challenges. They can help you navigate out of it.
Beautifully said. Thank you. And here at MSA National, we also are very much huge advocates for mentorship and finding someone who you can connect with. And that's actually something we're in the works in currently, is trying to build that kind of networking connection, so you students can get that opportunity. And just finally, to close us out, I would like all the speakers to tell us, how can we reach out to you if a student is interested in possibly getting more advice and learning about what it is that you do? What's the best way for them to reach you? We'll start with Vanessa.
Oh, reach me, like email address or something?
Yeah. Email address, yes. If and
Yeah.
yeah. All right.
I think you have my Gmail, so that's
All right.
fine. Anyone
We do
who,
have her Gmail, and I guess if anyone is interested in it, you can reach out to us directly for that. And it's okay for us to provide that, I assume, right? Thank you. Fatima, what is the best way for people to reach you?
Definitely. If you would love to reach me, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I try to be active on there, and I will do my best to get back. But I'm always really excited to meet a lot of young people, college students, because I was definitely there. I understand the stresses of it all. So yeah, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to connect.
Thank you. And one more plug for Fatima. She actually has a YouTube channel called Technically Fatima, and it's awesome. And if you're someone who's interested in software engineering, I highly recommend it. And if you guys want more information on that, again, please feel free to reach out to MSA National. And last but not least, Mustafa, how can we reach out to you?
Yeah, just look me up on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so it's easy name to remember, Mustafa. With the name so nice, you say it twice. So easy to find me. There's interesting enough, there is a few other Mustafas out there. So, but just look me up at Ferrara. Love to connect.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you again to our hosts or for our guest speakers today. We really appreciate you guys sharing your knowledge. And of course, I just want to reiterate everything that was said today. We heard from Vanessa that having good intentions and going into certain degrees is very important because obviously we want to put in our best effort in something. And if you have a positive intention going into something, then it's just going to make it more successful for you. And also don't be discouraged, as Fatima said, just keep going, keep pushing. No matter how hard it gets, if you truly believe this is something you want to do, make the effort and seek out the opportunity and go through all those challenges to get where you ultimately want to be. And as Mustafa beautifully said, be end goal oriented. Make sure that you're choosing the right school so you ultimately will get into the right career. And of course, overall, make sure you reach out to people who are willing to help you network, mentor. We're always going to push that because that is the best way to put yourself out there and be successful in your field. We want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. And if you would like more information on all three of our speakers, please feel free to reach out to MSA National. We do have an upcoming event with Wahid Investment coming up on July 14th, so stay tuned for that. And of course, our next Career Series event will be end of July, and we're going to be talking about engineering, so please stay tuned for that. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, MSA. Salam.